November 22, 2018. Thanksgiving Day in Woodland Park, Colorado. 29-year-old Kelsey Berreth was preparing for a routine custody exchange with Patrick Frazee, the father of her 1-year-old daughter Kaylee. What she didn't know was that Patrick had spent months planning her murder and had already recruited an accomplice to help him dispose of her body. Patrick Frazee is accused of killing Kelsey Berreth on Thanksgiving Day 2018. Her body was never found. This is the story of how domestic control escalated to murder, how manipulation turned an Idaho mother into an accomplice, and how the truth finally emerged in one of Colorado's most shocking trials.
A nationwide search for that missing mother from Colorado. Tonight, the surveillance of her in that grocery store last seen with her 1-year-old daughter. That was Thanksgiving Day. Tonight, amid questions about why her fiancé was not at that news conference, tonight what his attorney is now saying. Here's ABC's Clayton Sendell.
This is the last confirmed sighting of Kelsey Berreth, Thanksgiving Day, shopping at a supermarket with her daughter. Tonight, her fiancé's lawyer says his client is cooperating with the search to find her.
Patrick, why don't you talk to us?
Patrick Frazee refused to talk yesterday, leaving his lawyer's office with the couple's daughter.
Do you want to say something about Kelsey?
Frazee says he let police search his phone and take DNA samples and photographs. Police say Frazee told them he got a text message from Berreth November 25th. That same day, a second text message from her phone to her job saying she was taking time off work. As for why Frazee was a no-show at Monday's press conference,
Why is he not here?
That is a question you'd have to ask him.
in a statement, his attorney says Mr. Frazee was first notified of the press conference approximately an hour prior, his lawyer says, and given more notice, he would have participated.
Frazee's attorney says his client is not speaking publicly because he doesn't want to interfere with the investigation. David?
Clayton Sendell with us again tonight.
Kelsey Berreth appeared to have everything going for her. A licensed pilot working as a flight instructor at the local airport, she was independent, successful, and devoted to her baby daughter. Patrick Frazee seemed equally stable, a cattle rancher from a prominent local family. But their relationship was complicated by Patrick's increasingly controlling behavior. Patrick and Kelsey never lived together. They never married. By 2018, custody arrangements for baby Kaylee had become contentious, with Patrick demanding more control over both his daughter and Kelsey. What Kelsey didn't realize was that Patrick had already decided on a permanent solution to what he called the Kelsey problem.
New clues in the search for that Colorado mom who went missing on Thanksgiving. Her fiancé is now revealing where he last saw her as police share a text message sent from her phone days after she disappeared. ABC's Clayton Sandell is tracking the case from Woodland Park. Good morning, Clayton.
And good morning to you, George. It has been 19 days since Kelsey Berreth went missing, leaving her infant daughter behind. And now police are revealing more about the times and places she was last seen, hoping for a break in the case.
This morning, new clues in the timeline police hope will lead to the safe return of Kelsey Berreth.
She's not the kind that runs off. This is completely out of character.
It's been nearly 3 weeks since the 29-year-old mother was last seen shopping at this grocery store on Thanksgiving Day.
We've reviewed video from the local Safeway grocery store, and it showed Kelsey shopping with her daughter Kaylee on November 22nd at about 12:27 p.m.
Authorities searching her home, finding the cold cinnamon rolls in the kitchen she baked that morning, makeup, clothing, and her cars all untouched. Police say Berreth's fiancé, Patrick Frazee, told them he last saw her on Thanksgiving when he picked up the couple's baby daughter. The two live apart.
Chief, I understand that Patrick was invited today. Why is he not here?
That is a question you'd have to ask him.
Is he being cooperative?
Yes, at this time, yes.
On November 25th, 3 days after she was last seen, a mysterious text message from Berreth's phone to the flight school where she works as a pilot, saying she was going to miss the next week of work.
We are treating Kelsey's disappearance as a missing persons case at this time.
Later the same day at 5:13 p.m., police say Berreth's phone pinged 700 miles away in Idaho. Berreth has family in Washington and Idaho where her mother lives, but they haven't seen her.
Kelsey, we just want you home. Call us if you can, and we won't quit looking.
Sources tell ABC News FBI and local police have checked at least one Idaho airport for clues, but found nothing.
All airplanes are accounted for. There is no indication that she has taken off in an airplane and gone somewhere at this point.
Police say Berreth's young daughter is still with her fiancé. We have reached out to him, but we have not heard back. Officially, police say they have no suspects.
But Patrick wouldn't act alone. While he pleaded not guilty to the charges, Kenney took a plea deal, pleading guilty to a tampering charge and agreeing to testify at Frazee's trial. Krystal Kenney was a married mother of 2 living in Hanson, Idaho. Patrick had been systematically manipulating her, convincing her that Kelsey was abusive and dangerous. According to later testimony, Patrick asked Krystal to kill Kelsey on 3 separate occasions between September and November 2018. First, he wanted her to poison Kelsey's coffee at the airport. Second, he asked her to beat Kelsey with a baseball bat outside her home. Each time, Krystal traveled from Idaho to Colorado but couldn't go through with it. When she failed to kill Kelsey, Patrick decided he would have to do it himself.
Major new development in the apparent murder of that missing Colorado mom. Sources tell ABC News a woman in Idaho is now being investigated. ABC's Clayton Sandell is in Colorado with the new details. Good morning, Clayton.
And good morning, Michael. Authorities here in Colorado are revealing few details about this case, but this morning we are learning more about a woman investigators say may have gotten rid of a key piece of evidence. This morning, new clues about an important piece of evidence in the Kelsey Berreth case. Her cell phone mysteriously turning up 700 miles away from her home days after the young mother's alleged murder.
Her phone did end up in Idaho.
Now, multiple sources tell ABC News authorities are looking at a 32-year-old nurse from Twin Falls, Idaho, who police believe may have tried to dispose of Berreth's phone. Sources say the woman has known Berreth's fiancé, Patrick Frazee, for years. They once worked together in Colorado. We are not using her name because she has not been charged with a crime. Frazee now charged with first-degree murder.
Patrick, anything to say? Berreth was last seen Thanksgiving Day shopping with the couple's 14-month-old daughter. Prosecutors will not say if they believe Frazee had any accomplices, but court documents reveal in the 3 months before his fiancée vanished, he allegedly tried to find someone to kill her 3 separate times. Berreth's body has not been found. Frazee has not entered a plea, and his public defender is not commenting. Later today, Berreth and Frazee's parents will be back in a Colorado courtroom in a bitter custody battle over their 1-year-old granddaughter, Kaylee. As for that woman from Idaho, we have made repeated attempts to reach out to her and her attorney. We have not heard back. Michael?
All right. Thank you so much, Clayton.
Prosecutors believe Frazee blindfolded Berreth under the guise of guessing the scent of candles, then beat her to death with a baseball bat. On Thanksgiving Day 2018, Kelsey met Patrick for their usual custody exchange. Surveillance cameras would capture her final public appearances. The cameras showed Kelsey at Safeway around 1 p.m., getting coffee and running errands like any normal day. They also captured Patrick arriving and leaving with baby Kaylee. What happened next occurred at Kelsey's townhome, where Patrick claimed he needed to discuss custody arrangements.
The shocking video that helped convict a man of murdering his fiancée, a key witness in Patrick Frazee's case, returning to the crime scene, pointing out evidence to investigators. Here's ABC's Clayton Sandell.
This morning, a new look at just released evidence in the Patrick Frazee trial.
When I first walked in, I saw blood all over the floor. I saw blood up the wall.
Frazee's secret girlfriend turned key witness Krystal Lee walking investigators through a condo turned crime scene where she says Frazee told her to come clean up a mess.
The spray was from here all the way. I had to clean up underneath here.
The victim, Kelsey Berreth, was last spotted Thanksgiving Day on a neighbor's security camera, going into her condo with Frazee and their 1-year-old daughter. Once inside, Frazee beat Berreth to death with a baseball bat. This week, he was convicted of murder, sentenced to life in prison.
That cinnamon roll pan had blood on the tinfoil.
Berreth never left that condo alive. Instead, investigators say she was stuffed inside a black tote like this, the real tote seen here in the back of Frazee's truck on its way to a ranch where a bloodhound named Radar sat to alert his handlers that he smelled a dead body. Berreth's body was never found.
We brought the tote here. Okay. We unloaded the tote.
That's because Lee says the tote was taken to Frazee's property, where he doused it in gasoline.
Were you present when he started the fire?
Yes, I was.
Prosecutors allowed Lee to cut a deal in exchange for her cooperation.
We did a deal with the devil.
Lee pleaded guilty to destroying evidence. She'll be sentenced in December and could face up to 3 years in prison. For Good Morning America, Clayton Sandell, ABC News, Denver.
Frazee was convicted of murder and will spend the rest of his life in prison.
The most horrific details would come from Krystal Kenney's own testimony. "Please stop." Those were the final words uttered by a Colorado mom as she was being beaten to death by her fiancé with a baseball bat, according to testimony from the man's mistress. She said, "Please stop," Lee said from the witness stand, fighting back tears. According to Krystal's testimony, Patrick asked Kelsey to smell candles he had brought as a ruse. When she leaned down, he struck her repeatedly with a baseball bat. Kenney testified that Frazee beat her to death with a baseball bat while their infant daughter was in the other room and then put her body in a black tote that he later moved to a ranch near Cripple Creek.
The chilling testimony in the murder trial of a man who was accused of murdering his fiancée, the mother of his child, in Colorado. You'll remember the surveillance of her last seen on Thanksgiving a year ago with her little girl. Tonight, his secret girlfriend now revealing what she says were the final words from the victim. Here's ABC's Clayton Sandell.
Krystal Lee walked into a Colorado courthouse today, the star witness in the murder trial against her former lover, Patrick Frazee.
You see him? He's in cuffs.
Frazee is accused of murdering his fiancée, Kelsey Berreth, last seen shopping Thanksgiving Day with the couple's daughter. Lee testifying he wanted her not to be a problem anymore. Investigators allege he tricked Berreth into wearing a blindfold to smell scented candles, then beat her to death with a baseball bat. Lee says Frazee told her Berreth's last words were, "Please stop."
I work with Patrick Frazee.
Lee admits she destroyed Berreth's cell phone and cleaned up the grisly crime scene, testifying if she didn't help Frazee, she feared she'd be next. Defense attorney Adam Steigerwald grilled Lee about the deal prosecutors gave her to testify against Frazee. All these times in the last year plus that you have not told the truth. So everything in the last 10 hours is the truth and just happens to be what you need to say to keep you out of prison? Lee said, "It's the truth."
Frazee has pleaded not guilty. Lee has pleaded guilty to destroying evidence, and her deal with prosecutors means she could be sentenced to anything from probation to 3 years in prison. David?
All right, Clayton Sandell, who's been covering this case from the start.
Immediately after the murder, Patrick called Krystal in Idaho with a chilling message. "You have a mess to clean up." Krystal Lee testified Wednesday that she cleaned Berreth's Colorado home after Frazee beat her to death with a bat. Krystal drove through the night from Idaho to Colorado, arriving at Kelsey's blood-soaked townhome the morning after Thanksgiving. 4 hours, she helped Patrick clean up evidence, scrubbing blood from walls, floors, and furniture. They loaded Kelsey's body into Patrick's truck and transported it to his ranch, where they burned her remains in a steel stock tank. For 13 days, Patrick Frazee performed the role of concerned ex-partner. He filed missing person reports, participated in searches, and gave interviews expressing worry about Kelsey's welfare. All while knowing he had killed her. The timeline overall seemed to corroborate Kenney's account of her and Frazee's activities after Thanksgiving Day. Text messages from Kelsey's phone continued after she was dead. Her phone pinged cell towers in Idaho, hundreds of miles away. The messages didn't sound like Kelsey's usual communication style, because they were being sent by Krystal Kenney, following Patrick's instructions to create a false trail. Digital evidence began unraveling Patrick's lies. Phone records showed extensive communication between Patrick and Krystal. Surveillance footage proved Krystal had traveled to Colorado around the time of Kelsey's disappearance. Most damning, forensics showed that Kelsey's phone had been in Krystal's possession after the murder. Faced with overwhelming evidence, Krystal made the decision that would finally bring justice for Kelsey. In exchange for a plea agreement, she agreed to testify truthfully about Patrick's crimes. Her cooperation would expose the full scope of his planning and the horror of what she had witnessed. On November 18, 2019, a Teller County jury found 33-year-old Patrick Frazee of Florissant guilty of first-degree murder in the November 2018 killing of his fiancée, 29-year-old Kelsey Berreth. He was found guilty on all counts, including first-degree felony murder and 3 counts of solicitation to commit murder. He was sentenced an hour later to life without parole plus 156 years, the maximum possible sentence. The jury deliberated for just hours before finding Patrick guilty on all counts. The evidence was overwhelming: surveillance footage, phone records, DNA evidence, and most critically, Krystal Kenney's detailed testimony about the murder and cover-up. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole plus 156 years following a 10-day jury trial in November 2019.
A verdict in a case that has made national headlines in Colorado, a jury finding Patrick Frazee guilty on all counts in the death of his fiancée, that young mom, Kelsey Berreth. Frazee was accused of bludgeoning Berreth to death while their one-year-old daughter was in a nearby room. Berreth was last seen with their daughter at a supermarket on Thanksgiving Day a year ago. Her body was never found. The jury taking just 3 hours to determine guilty on all counts. ABC's Clayton Sandell on this breaking story. He's at the courthouse tonight.
Tonight, Patrick Frazee is a convicted murderer. The jury taking just 3.5 hours to determine he killed his fiancée, Kelsey Berreth.
It was a sweet day in the sense that justice was brought to Patrick Frazee for this brutal, gruesome, senseless murder.
Berreth was last seen shopping with the couple's daughter last Thanksgiving.
Patrick, why don't you talk to us?
In a trial that lasted just over 2 weeks, Frazee's former mistress, Krystal Lee, testified Frazee wanted Berreth out of his life, admitting he went to her condo, tricked her into putting on a blindfold, beat her to death with a baseball bat, then burned her body. Lee admitted she cleaned up the bloody crime scene and destroyed Berreth's phone, cutting a deal to become the prosecution's star witness.
I work with Patrick Frazee.
The prosecution's final witness, one of Frazee's fellow inmates in county jail, who claims Frazee asked for his help to kill all of the witnesses who were set to testify against him.
Clayton Sandell with us live tonight. He's outside the courthouse. And Clayton, not only did the jury come back fast, but Frazee was also just sentenced.
Yeah, David, it happened fast. Just moments ago, Frazee was sentenced to the maximum: life in prison, no parole, and an additional 156 years. David?
Clayton, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
In November 2019, Frazee was found guilty of all counts against him and was sentenced to life without parole plus 156 years. Krystal Kenney served her sentence and was eventually released on parole. But the real tragedy remains. Baby Kaylee lost her mother to her father's violence, and Kelsey's body has never been recovered. The Kelsey Berreth case serves as a stark reminder of how domestic violence can escalate to murder, and how manipulation can turn ordinary people into accomplices to horrific crimes. The Colorado Supreme Court upholds first-degree murder conviction of Patrick Frazee, ensuring he will never be free to harm another family. Kelsey Berreth was a devoted mother, accomplished pilot, and independent woman who deserved to watch her daughter grow up. Instead, she became the victim of a man who believed control was more important than love, and murder was preferable to letting go. Her case reminds us that the most dangerous time for domestic violence victims is often when they try to establish independence from their abusers. Justice was served for Kelsey, but her daughter will grow up without her mother, the ultimate tragedy in a case that should serve as a warning about the deadly escalation of controlling relationships.